So then, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hola hippies of the world, all of you, paz a nosotros toda, el mundo entero. Hello, I'm John Unpack, citizen journalist in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I have a citizen's dispatch. Recently, and uncharacteristically little attention, the Obamers signed into law H.R. 347. Now, in case you have not been hanging on every post of the left blogosphere for the last 2 weeks and instead may have perhaps been enjoying the beguilements of spring, or an actual life perhaps, a family, a job, hobbies, you know, that kind of thing. Well, maybe you never heard of H.R. 347 or its Senate companion S. 1794, and that's why I'm here, just to give you something more to worry about. H.R. 347 is legislative shorthand for a piece of legislation given the even then innocuous title, the Federal Restricted Buildings and Grounds Improvement Act of 2011. As innocuous as it sounds, it still raised hackles and red flags all over our side, since it involved restrictions on citizens' lawful movements in areas where the Secret Service had exercised or would exercise its protective authority, and also what was in fact a lawful act under those circumstances. Just in time for the onset of what, with the elections coming and the conventions and occupiers and resistors and insurgencies of all stripes rearing up on the horizon. It's going to be a long year of seeking redress for our grievances. St. Barry the timid and the gutless, gormless, feckless Congress upgraded an obscure law to make it possible for the forces of law and order, peace, justice, and the American way to, put it simply, fuck with you more effectively. If you happen to cherish the temerity of seeking your redress in the old-fashioned way by making public trouble for them with a little creative trespassing at maybe a convention, say, or a public rally where the participants are under the protection of the Secret Service. The bill, which Obamster quietly signed March 8th, changed some of the terms of a previous measure pertaining to the definition of criminal trespass under these security conditions under which a crime may be prosecuted, and the penalties which could be assessed for such behavior. It grants certain additional discretionary latitude to the Secret Service, too. Everybody, or at least all the serious people in the corporate scum and the commentariat, have said it's nothing to worry about. Even the ACLU, well-placed spokesflack Gabe Rotman was at pains to paint a placid, reassuring picture for us, as if nothing to worry about because we, the ACLU, are undisturbed. So you just ought to take a chill pill there, folks. Fire Dog Lake, of course, had a somewhat different take. I have links on my blog. There are, but the predominant message was to chill. And so you might, until and unless you took a look at what did change in the newest version and look at it in the light of the upsets and the turmoil occasioned hitherto and probably likely to occur in the future as the protest and occupation season advances. The question is, if it changes nothing, then why'd they change it at all? Well, they explained, it only changes a couple of little teeny, eeny, weensy little beady things, you know? A couple of words here and there. House cleaning. It's nothing, really, they reassure you. As an aside, I cannot say how it is where you all live, but here in the U.S. of A., our Congress critters are always really busy doing whatever it is they need to do right now so they can fuck with us now. So they rarely have the occasion or opportunity to revisit anything. And so they only ever really seem to go back to laws in order to make it easier to screw with you sort of in retrospect. Have you noticed that? You start with your rights and your liberties and your freedoms and that kind of stuff, but every little change takes another little nibble, and pretty soon, shit, habeas corpus is gone. That's the kind of change this is. Incremental. H.R. 347 broadens the discretion of prosecutors and the public and the Secret Service to detain people, and it makes it easier to try and convict them. Hitherto, under the original language of the law, you had to, quote, willfully and knowingly act when committing the crime. In short, you had to know your own conduct was illegal. Under H.R. 347, you will simply need to act knowingly, which here could mean only that you know that you're going into a restricted area, but not that you're breaking the law. That's not a small change. It's a big difference, and it won't expire with the current incumbent either. Under the revised laws, all they have to prove is that you, perps, knowingly violated the prohibited zone. That's a felony. And even the ACLU agrees that the law is part of a set of laws which make the risibly called free speech zones possible and should be seen in this context. Well, duh. Now let's get this thing straight from the jump, hippies. The whole point of such laws as this one is to provide warrant, that is, they call it grounds, to interfere with, to detain, arrest, and charge unauthorized people making trouble for the Secret Service security by exercising their rights. The purpose of this is to up the stakes on the demonstrations and to fuck with the demonstrators' civil liberties if they challenge them. Though the Secret Service and Congress, which passed it in a goddamn unseemly hurry, will claim its purposes to improve security, that's just a charade. In the real world, improving security always means fucking with you, screwing with somebody who wasn't being screwed with before. All the changes were aimed at prosecuting violators, not at preventing acts. The revision seems to me to have been enacted primarily for the purpose of ensnaring more demonstrators and protesters, more citizens, in more violations which are easier to prove and for which it's easier to win convictions. And if that ain't fucking with you, well, as the old blues song goes, then chicken ain't poultry, grits ain't groceries, and Mona Lisa was a man. Positive.